For Sexual Assault Awareness Month, Vanita Dillon and Justin Agbiani will be interviewing Lieutenant Commander Fionna Boyle, female mariner and Merchant Marine Academy grad. In this Q&A portion, Fionna talks about college reporting culture, how to direct, delegate, and distract, and the dangers of bystander effects. She also talks about learning to have hard conversations. Check out our Resiliency Project page to be updated on upcoming podcasts, www.csu.edu/resiliency.
We're back with Fionna Boyle and Justin Agbiani. Justin, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little about what you do at Cal Maritime and outside of going to class, and what interests you in sexual assault awareness?
Hi, my name is Justin. Before Cal Maritime, I think the biggest impact for me was I was a Civil Air Patrol cadet for about 6 to 7 years. Had the opportunity to do some amazing training with pararescuemen, SEER instructors, pilots, and just civilian leaders in general. And that program introduced me to Cal Maritime, where I applied. And through Cal Maritime, I've had some amazing experiences. As a global studies and maritime affairs student, I've done IE, and I've also studied abroad. You only had to do one as a graduation requirement, but I decided to do both. For IE, I went to Vietnam, and that was an incredible time. 3 weeks I spent in country. And then the last 2 days, I was begging my professor to can I stay? Can I go to the Vietnam Maritime University and see more? And then the following morning, one of the administrators from VMARU, the Vietnam Maritime University, came over, and she said, "You're in. I'll see you in August." And then that was it. Came back home for another month and a half, and went right back to Vietnam. And there I had the opportunity to kind of see their side of the maritime industry. And following up, the last month of my studying abroad, I canceled one class and decided to spend a month just by myself backpacking on my motorcycle through the Northern Highlands. And that was last December, or 2 Decembers ago. And from there, I grew a passion for motorcycles. And this year, through Cal Maritime, I'm wrapping up. This year at Cal Maritime, I'm wrapping up my school year, and I'm a Resiliency Peer. And this is what kind of drew me to sexual awareness, where I saw an issue with the school being so isolated. The school is located in an area where it's far from Vallejo or a town, and it's such a small community that really tight-knit things are tight connections, you need to form. And they're also, it's kind of in a way has kind of the atmosphere of a high school where things get around and there's a lot of tension. And me being a resiliency peer, I kind of wanted to find a solution to that. So yeah, that's basically a little bit about me.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I had no idea that you spent a whole year in Vietnam. That must have been an awesome opportunity. With that, thank you for sharing that. And I know you have some questions for Fionna, right?
Oh yeah, I do have a couple questions. So I'll just get right to it. We have Title IX policies at every university, and they provide clear guidance to take immediate and appropriate action to help resolve it promptly and equitably. But can universities still suffer from underreporting? And Fionna, can you share with cadets and students, why they should be encouraged to report anything?
Yeah, Justin, thanks for that question. So I'm going to get back to the student piece. But I would say, and I know I've known Vanita for a little bit, and she's working really hard on Title IX. But I would say at schools in general, I think the Title IX community has a big responsibility for engagement with the students and their customer, right? And building trust and authentic connection. Because I think I just think about being when I was a cadet, and the only way I'm going to want to report is knowing that there's not only a policy in place or that there's a process, because those are important to know and we are all trained on it. And, I'm sure you are annually at least. But knowing what happens after the report and knowing that you're going to be cared for as an individual and you're not just a number, and that you're going to have an advocate, you're going to have someone supporting you throughout the process, that you're going to be believed and trusted with what you're sharing, and that there's going to be that community, whether it's through the Title IX personnel or through the medical staff, making sure that you're taken care of. And if that's counseling or a forensic exam, whatever else comes from that, that it's only going to be um, kind of an arms around you approach. Like, you're going to be supported. Because what I would think as a cadet is that, okay, now not only am I working on my schoolwork, or if you have, going on your training cruise, your sea cruise, but you have timelines in your mind. You're thinking about grad schools, you're thinking about work, thinking about job opportunities afterwards, you're thinking about your obligations and your hobbies and your sporting commitments. And I would be thinking about, if I report, how much impact is this going to have on my entire life? And am I willing to come forward? Because it's not going to be an easy road, right? Especially if you have an option to not only put your name on it, but if there's an anonymous reporting option. But regardless, coming forward and sharing your story is hard enough. And then knowing that if you want an investigation and all the other things that are going to come from it, that there is massive courage and massive strength in that. So I think knowing that it's kind of a dual relationship, as much as it's on the Title IX personnel to get out there and to train, and there's requirements, right? So the training has to happen, and it's very important that it happens. But it's people like you who's the peer resiliency coordinator, and I hope more people are inspired by your work to come and join and be part of that, because it's really about building a culture at Cal Maritime that is going to allow people to be believed, to say, if someone shares with you, a fellow friend, that, like, hey, this happened to me, for that person to not only know what to do and what the resources are as well, but to create that environment to where, like, hey, I'm going to stop everything I'm doing to go and bring you to Miss Vinita and make sure that you're taken care of. And to respect that confidentiality piece, that things that happen aren't going to spread. There's not going to be a rumor. There's not going to be judgment or shame or, oh, this didn't happen to this person. And, it's all the surrounding factors that are going to create a culture of reporting. So even though, at the end of the day, we don't necessarily control outcomes of maybe an investigation, but I would say the core thing is knowing that your personal health is so important and that you're so cared about, that as an individual, to seek that medical help, one, and to get, to become safe, make sure that you're safe and you can get the care you need. That's the most important. Um, and that if someone comes to you and you're not necessarily a victim, but that you know what to do and you know where to go, you know who to call, you have that phone number in your phone, because it may not be a matter of if, but when someone comes to you to seek help, and you don't want to be fumbling at that time to figure out what to do. So I think there's an overall responsibility from everyone on campus, just students and faculty and instructors and, commandant's department and everyone in between, and the crew on the training vessel. Everyone knows that if it happens to them, what the resources are, and if it's not them, but someone comes to them for help, they're going to know what to do. So I think really building that collective culture of trust and engagement, authentic connection, and believability is going to foster a better reporting culture.
Well, I would add, all Cal Maritime cadets, we all have a responsibility to maintain a community that's, safe and free of sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
But that also means like we have, like you said, like intervening when something, doesn't seem right. But sometimes, I can even me myself, like I sometimes feel like I'm in different situations where I shouldn't step in, I should mind my own business. And that kind of minding your own business mentality, that's huge. Like some of our parents even taught us like, if it's not your tribe, don't intervene. But when it comes to sexual assault, like intervening is huge. Like how can you overcome that?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. I know, growing up too, it's a lot of it is, you know, the understanding could be, oh, if it's your problem, keep it your problem. Like don't tell other people about it or share those things. Um, in regards to stepping up, and I would say one, you know, is going back to the safety piece. So knowing that if you want to intervene, or if you, I, for me, it's the see something, say something mentality. Um, and for me, I was in high school when September 11th happened, and so I've lived like most of my adult life just in a constant awareness state of things around me and what's going on, and just situational awareness, and that's especially important to us as mariners, um, in knowing whether you're offshore or onshore, just having vigilance, um, and knowing when something seems off, and that could be you're walking by and there's a situation going on, and whether it's has anything to do with sexual assault or not, it's just being conscientious, and again, knowing your options. So one, you don't want to intervene if your safety is going to be jeopardized. Like that would be my number one advice. Um, and there's different methods that you can go through in your mind that you could kind of fall back to. So, um, if I don't know if you've heard of the 3 Ds, but I've learned of them and they've helped me greatly in different aspects of stepping in or intervening. And so it's direct, delegate, and distract. Um, so for direct, an example would be that if you feel safe and you see something going on and you can go in and be like, hey, this needs to stop. What are you doing? That's more of a direct approach. To delegate is, you know what, I maybe don't feel comfortable stepping in, but I know it's wrong. Um, and so delegating means to go and tell someone else. So that could be a resource, that could be 911, that could be your closest faculty member, or even just another friend, like, hey, I need you to go call someone or do something. Um, and then distract. You know, I remember seeing a video and there was someone on their bike and they saw a fight going on. Um, uh, which seemed more of like a domestic violence issue or a dating violence issue. And the person, like literally, I think fell off their bike purposefully, pretty close to where the fight was going on. And those two people stopped fighting, came over to see if that person needed help. So, not saying to fall off your bike, but you know, creating a distraction could change a perspective that would maybe stop whatever situation that's happening in that moment, to diffuse. So that's direct, delegate, and distract. So that would be some advice for people on maybe what to do. And I want to touch on the bystander effect. So one thing that I think is really important is the assumption that someone else is going to do something. So if we walk by, maybe an example could be like a piece of paper or a piece of plastic that's out there on the grass or just blowing around, and it's like, oh, well, there's a huge group of people over there. I'm sure they'll pick it up, and just keep walking by. Um, so if you're seeing something, um, and it's always good, you'd rather have a resource such as 911 or the campus police, to receive, 20 phone calls and it end up being nothing, than not reporting it at all and it being something. So that's my biggest advice in regards to intervening, but always falling back on the safety piece and making sure that you have the oxygen mask on first before helping others. That's really, really important.
I mean, I guess I can tie all that into like, from what I learned as a cap cadet, like doing the right thing, even if no one's looking kind of deal.
Yep. The courage
So
in adversity. Yes.